1964, the Rolling Stones and the Animals toured the U.S., bringing the voice of British blues to America.
Times Square welcomes the Animals in person, and the young Englishman will be around for a while filming an MGM movie in Manhattan. In New Orleans, the teenage magic so hard to explain to some grown-ups follows the Animals as they take temporary refuge in their hotel.
All of a sudden, bands who we knew, you know, we played with, you know, these bands played the Go-Go, we'd seen, we'd met along the line. There was almost like this little party that went on of all English bands that suddenly 60% of the music in the world was English music.
We really thought that when we went to America and played them that music, it wouldn't work because it was their music. We didn't realize that the white kids had never heard that music.
The only place you could hear black music was on the road. When we'd be on the road, we'd be playing in Nashville, Tennessee, for instance. And you'd have to cross the tracks to hear real black music being played in shacks, you know, on the Chitlin circuit. Corrugated shacks out on, you know, at some crossroads somewhere on the outskirts of town. And it was just within the black community that you could hear the real thing.
Of urban blues, the Stones made the pilgrimage to Chicago and their spiritual home, Chess Records, at 2120 South Michigan Avenue.
I think that the Stones understood a certain sexual energy that was in Chess Records music and amplified that into their own music.
Like everybody in the world loves the winter. Chess Studios was hotter than hell. And everybody wanted to come to Chess.
But they wanted the Chess sound, you know. They started out doing all Chess sounds, and I always used to say that they wanted to mimic. They would have loved to have done Chess Records to be exactly like the originals, but it came out like the Rolling Stones, which was great.
I want you to wash my clothes. I don't want you to keep my home. I don't want, 'cause I'm tired of you. Just wanna make love to you.
In the spring of 1965, Eric Clapton joined John Mayall's Blues Breakers. The Yardbirds had become too pop-oriented to suit Clapton's musical taste.
I didn't like the way they were going, and I thought that it was all really just a joke for them. And I was actually fanatic at that point. Fanatic and wanting to get deeper and deeper and deeper into the blues. And they wanted to get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter into what ended up as being 10cc type music.
They wanted to do pop music and he wanted to pursue blues. By the time he'd left them, of course, he was what I consider the finest that there was. There wasn't anybody better than him.
With Clapton's departure, the Yardbirds needed a new guitarist. At London's Eel Pie Island, one of the favorite clubs on the blues circuit, Jeff Beck was building up a following with his band, the Tridents.
I was buttonholed by Gamelski's sidekicks. They said, you're going to be in a top band, you know. I said, really? When is this? They said, to be at the Marquee tomorrow morning, or whatever it was. And smarten up as well. I went, oh, don't like the sound of this. I thought it might have been the Beatles. And I look in there, as a bench with about 20 guitar players there with all their cases. So all of a sudden I was in this sort of audition, and I didn't enjoy that part of it at all. And Keith comes running off the stage with his squeezy respirator, and he said, don't worry, he said, all these people are just, you know, before we knew you were coming, we'd auditioned them and given them a date to turn up, so if you can just sit around and listen to them, or come back in an hour, you know. And some of them were pretty good, and I thought, well, this is a bit embarrassing here. So he said, by the way, what music are you into? And I said, well, blues. And that was bingo, that was right. I said the right thing. He said, play me some blues. He had another puff, and I said, well, I haven't got an amp. He said, just play me a few lines. So I played some Matt Murphy runs and Buddy Guy, and he said, that's it, everybody else, you can go.
The Yardbirds had chosen Beck for his experimental approach. Fuzz tone, feedback, harmonic sustain, and dive bomber runs were all part of his expressive arsenal, which moved the group into its most successful period.
The Yardbirds were sort of a compromise. You know, at least I was in a band that was working and doing what I loved to do. But there was this nagging, you know, from America all the time. You know, could it possibly be that we'll get a gig in America? But we actually got to our first tour in 1965 and got really close to the bare bones of where we'd all come from. Chess Studios, Sun Studios, and stuff like that. And Chess was synonymous with great drums and great bass sounds and harmonica. And it was instantly recognisable from any English recordings, which we loathed. We didn't like the, if you'll pardon the expression, BBC. There was no slur on it, but the studio technicians didn't really have any grasp on where the dirt was coming from, the vital ingredient in the sound that seemed to be automatic to the Chess people and America in general, that they had a much more good understanding, clear understanding of what you wanted and knew how to get it.
When we first started playing together, we started playing because we wanted to play rhythm and blues, and Howling Wolf was one of our greatest idols, and it's a great pleasure to find he's been booked on this show tonight. It really is a pleasure.
Thanks for Howling, Jack.
So I think it's about time you shut up and we had Howling Wolf on stage.
Yeah,
The strength of the British invasion in the U.S. led directly to a renaissance for homegrown blues artists, who began to be appreciated by white America for the first time.
How many more years to have to let your dog be around? How many more years to have to let your dog be around? Ho, 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 ho. Whoa, man. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Walk your walk, baby.
One thing that the R&B scene did for British music is that became the Chicago blues became the starting point for people when they were looking around for a source of material to cover, to play. And then, you know, they found their own identities, and of course everybody went off into their different directions on a very gradual basis.
Well, I told you once and I told you twice, but you never listened to my advice.
Jagger and Richards started writing original songs for the Stones. Many became huge hits, but Brian Jones became increasingly dissatisfied, feeling that the Stones were departing from their blues roots.
Well, the moment that Mick and Keith write the songs, then Brian was out on a limb, wasn't he? Because Brian was like the leader. Then Mick came up as a figurehead, the singer, who got more of the spotlight on stage. So then Brian's sort of there, and then Keith's playing solos. So he's there, and he jumps about a bit more than Brian, because Brian just kind of hops, you know, and does his tambourine bit, but Keith's diving about. So then he's losing a bit more focus, and then when Andrew and Mick and Keith get into their little trio, then he kind of gets a bit ostracized, you know, pushed away, and he kind of dropped out a bit.
I can't get no. I can't get no. When I'm driving in my car.
The Jagger-Richards partnership produced 3 consecutive #1 hits in the UK. The second of these, Satisfaction, gave them the breakthrough in the US they had been looking for.